6 o'clock, we'll call the workshop to order. Julie, it looks like we have one person signed up for public input. Do we have any from telepresence from Grand Rapids?
No, we do not.
I'm going to read real briefly the policy for public input. The ISD 318 school board shall provide specific period of time where persons may address the school board on any topic subject to the limitations of policy 206. All individual comments shall be less than 5 minutes. Any group of 5 or more persons must appoint one person to present the group's views to the board. Depending on the number of persons present, the school board chair reserves the right to set further time limits to allow participation within the allocated time. Board shall not allow negative comments in public session about individual employees or students. Specific factual information or recitation of existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries, but the board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any issue that is not included on the agenda posted with the meeting. If there are more requests than times available, priority will be given to persons who live within the Grand Rapids Big Fork School District. And I have Heidi Korstead.
As most of you know, I'm Heidi Korstead. I'm 100% supportive of District 318 without question. And I support the levy. And as you know, our community here in Big Fork is very unhappy about the cuts that occurred this spring, primarily to our music and to our language program. My understanding is that if we vote yes on this levy for the Article 2, programs will be reinstituted. And my question to the board is, do you promise that if we rally behind the levy, that we really are going to get in-person language back in our school, and that we again will have our band and choir return? That's how I'm selling this to my community. And sometimes when I do it, it makes me really nervous because I need that promise. Otherwise, it's my word. Our kids in Big Fork deserve to actually play an instrument and sing a song and learn music. Having musicians come up from Grand Rapids, from the Riot, and some of that's band-aided together for this year is, I mean, it's nice, but it's not playing the instrument, learning anything. It's an observation. They also deserve to have in-person Spanish. Most of us have taken a language, and there's no way you learn that from a computer screen. You have to make the pronunciation, screw it up, try it again, do the vocab with somebody right there saying no. And because of how passionately I feel about our Spanish and our music, I intend to vote yes, and I hope that's the right thing. In the future, the path to excellence for Big Fork, I believe, needs to include representation. As it's time to end the era of an entire K through 12 school with no representation on the governing body. Governance of our school, and certainly communication with the district, and a lot easier for you guys and the administration. All of that communication would be greatly improved with a single seat on this board for Big Fork School. Thank you. I appreciate you guys working hard on music, Spanish, and board representation.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Principal's Report, Ken DeCoster.
Good evening, everyone. like to thank staff and community members for being here this evening as well. I don't have a lot of new things to report to you, as we talked a couple weeks ago on the first day of school. But I do have some updates for you in the area of construction, the school day, and then just kind of our fall sports as well. The board got a bit of a chance to take a tour and see the results of our construction. Some of it's still underway. Much of it is finished. Some of our instructional spaces, we're holding classes in. We have been from the first day of school on. A multi-purpose room and art room are operational from day one. Computer lab is still being put together and is being done so as quickly as possible. We got the media center back right before school started, so we're unpacking that this time. Locker rooms and fitness room still need to be completed, but they're coming together and then the last stages. And of course, once those are done, then our then work will be on that concessions area that you heard about on that tour as well. As far as our school day goes, we had a number of schedule changes in both our elementary and our secondary. Some of those were due to budget reductions. Some of those were due to just trying to look at how we can do things more efficiently and get basically the most efficiency out of our instructional time. And so we got most of those wrinkles ironed out and moving forward. And I would sum it up like this: both the construction and the school day issues. The start of the school year has not been without issue. What's made the difference has been the staff coming together. I'm talking about all building staff coming together and saying, "Hey, what needs to be done?" And I mentioned it the first day of school, but to watch the school transform in the last week or two, especially, that was only possible because of extra time, extra patience. Our staff, our contractors were wonderful at working around things, asking what we needed to prioritize. It was great. Our sections were attended. Was very respectful of what we needed and prioritized things as I asked them to. But our staff was just incredibly patient and rolled the punches very well, and that made all the difference in the world to me. I would end that part with saying our building leadership team is strong and moving forward. Our staff has rallied around early out to what we're planning. We've laid out that first cycle for them, and we feel like everybody's on board and has the right frame of mind and the right perspective. We're ready to roll the sleeves up and dig in, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the team. Lastly, our fall sports are underway. Volleyball's off to a nice, strong start. Football, our numbers are a little bit lower, but there's some really strong dedication within that group. Unfortunately, some of them have been bitten by, a bug here and there, including strep throat, and so you don't have a lot of depth. All of a sudden, you're trying to plan it accordingly and make sure that the teams get to play competitive games, but also to put themselves in a situation where somebody can get hurt unnecessarily as well. So, fall sports are rolling, and we're enjoying the fall weather. That's my report. Do you have any questions about any of those things?
Any questions? Thanks, Ken.
Can I just ask?
Yeah,
Ken,
go ahead.
What's the timeline for getting some of these rooms back up?
That's a great question. It's going to depend on the room.
Okay.
The computer lab, it's one thing to get the computer set up the rest of the way, but we've got to fix that power issue on the one wall. And I'm not going to give a timeline on that. So locker rooms and fitness rooms, they're talking the end of the month. There is some outside work there that has to be done too, so I don't know where that's at. But I put us in the final stage, but it's all got to come together. This end's supposed to be here this week, actually putting that matting down, the floor down in that fitness room, and then they'll start moving equipment in there. That equipment is here. It's actually over in the metal shop, and Mr. Austin's workshop is graciously sacrificing some space for that stuff until we can get it in there. So, anything else?
Mr. Chair, Ken, what's attendance like? It's early, very early in the school year. What are you seeing in attendance?
I would say probably around the average. We've had some days where I kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit, like, ooh, already. But I think overall, I would still have us in the average window. maybe that's me with the Steven perspective, because we've been through a few years of COVID where we had some serious absentee
Yes.
issues, so this doesn't make me feel as bad. Maybe if it was pre-COVID type year, I'd say, geez, how everybody's sick already, but right now, there's nothing selling alarm bells.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Mark. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
We'll adjourn the workshop. We'll come back into session for the main meeting at 6:30. by Melissa. Second by Mindy. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the August 2023 claims in the amount of $7,832,135.19. Moved by Ben,
Second.
second by David. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Claims are approved. Next item on the agenda is sale day report on general obligation facility maintenance and tax abatement bonds. Greg Ellers.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to be here. Got a little hung up on the scenic and the construction zones. Looking down, but I did bring some copies of the sale reports for both issues. And you have resolutions regarding the sale to the low bidder for both issues. The 2023B is a slightly different resolution because you originally adopted a parameters resolution. If the interest rate is below 5%, that a board member and superintendent or business manager could sign on your behalf to accept the loan. So that was on this afternoon. So the resolution is ratifying that action on behalf of the board. So the pre-sale report or the sale day reports are slightly different, but because there were different bids accepted, but generally cover the same idea. So if you look at the one that has the 2023A covered, you'll see the statistics and general background information on the inside front cover. So I'll mention that starting at the top, the rating agency, we had a good rating call with the conference call with S&P to talk about the district's finances, management, local economy, and Matt Carey did a really nice job talking about what's been going on in the district, some of the issues around the election this fall, and some of the management that the board has done on the district's finances, the adoption of the balanced budget. A lot of those things played out to be positive for the district, and they maintain the district's A- rating, and they did put a caution flag still on fund balance if the elections aren't approved by the voters this fall, that there needs to be a plan then to address potential deficits going forward. So they did flag that, and I'll point some of the rating stuff out as in an attachment to this report. For this issue, and as we talked about during the pre-sale meeting, slightly different than the B issue, which is a COP. This is a general obligation bond, so it's more secure, and you have more bidders for this one. So there were 5 bidders for the 2023A GO bond, facility maintenance and abatement bond. The low bidder was Northland Securities from Minneapolis, and the low bid was 3.53%. And if you remember during the pre-sale discussion, we were estimating 3.82%. We have a little cushion in case rates came up. They did come up a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but not even enough to reach that kind of cushion point that we had included in the pre-sale report. So the total principal amount is $2.46 million, and there's cost of issuance detailed in the table. And then the note at the bottom points out that we did receive a premium bid for the bonds that was slightly larger than we estimated in the pre-sale report. And because the interest rate was lower, we did leverage that premium into the district's construction fund. So that'll provide a little more than $80,000 in additional construction contingency for the project, and with the same or lower cost because of the lower interest rate. So ultimately, a good result. Lower rates for for the repayment of the debt and additional funds for the construction project itself. There are a couple of attachments. So, page one of the attachments is the bid tabulation. As I mentioned, the low bid is Northland Securities. You'll see that they also bid on the 23B issue, as were the next two bids there, and the capital markets on Chicago. And then Stephen Nicholas from Birmingham, Alabama, and TD Securities from New York also bid. So there's a little bit of demand for municipal taxes and securities. So that attracted some regional and even national attention. So it's always nice to see those additional bids. Page two of the attachments is sources and uses. Again, I just mentioned that there's slightly more available for project costs. And then page three is a combined debt service schedule. And you see on there 3.5% interest rate, annual payments, just over $400,000 for the combined purposes of the bond issue. And then pages 4 and 5 are detailed schedules for each of the purposes. So the IAQ indoor air quality facility maintenance purpose on page 4, and the parking lot abatement bond purpose on page 5. And then we've also provided on pages 6 and 7 the overall detailed debt plan and debt plan chart that shows how this layers in with the existing tax levies. I do want to mention that starting on page 8, we've incorporated the rating report from Standard Reports. So at your leisure, you can glance through that and kind of look at some of the factors they looked at in affirming the district's rating. I would just point you to page 11, which is page 4 of the rating report that talks about the outlook. And you can see there that they mentioned they could lower the rating if the operating return fails, the district does not address the budget imbalances that may result. And then the potential upside, which is initially removing the negative outlook, returning the outlook to stable if the levy is approved, and operating revenues are believed to be adequate and going forward. So that's really the kind of the key focus for them, because the economy is pretty good, management of the district is good, so it's really just about what happens with your fund balance over the next few years. Now, of course, you've issued the bonds now, so the interest rate is locked in, but obviously you want to maintain a good credit rating, and down the road that comes into play as we look for opportunities to refinance outstanding debt of the school district. In that case, you'd be issuing additional bonds, and we want to make sure you get the best rate possible on that rating. We'll plan for that. The sales report on the 2023 bond is pretty similar, and I'll just point out a couple of differences. So on page 1, that summary page for the 23, the certificates of participation, there are only 3 bids received, which actually for certificate of participation, that's actually a pretty decent number. A lot of times districts will potentially only get 1 or 2 bids for certificates of participation. And remember, those aren't GO bonds. Those are annual appropriation debt, so they're a little less secure. The rating tied to them is 1 notch lower than the district's overall rating. The low bidder was Baird out of Milwaukee, and the low bid was 4.85%. If you remember, we had 4.5 in the pre-sale report. So in this case, the rate is a little bit higher than we projected. And this type of debt, because of the less secure nature of it, the lower number of bids, it's a little more difficult to predict what kind of rate you're going to end up with, because it's also less common in the overall markets. So it's harder to find comparables to look at and say, okay, this is a triple B rated school district annual appropriation debt, and this is the kind of interest it's getting. So, that's generally why the rate is different than what we projected. And Sometimes this debt is more volatile. As I mentioned, rates have been coming up in the last few weeks. So there's probably a little less cushion to deal with this kind of. I'll just point out that the parameter for approving the debt was 5%, so it did meet that parameter that the board set when you adopt the authorization resolution. So it was approved this afternoon by board member and business manager. So the rest of the bid tab is attached again, as I mentioned, the three bidders were there, Loop Capital Markets and Northwood Securities. And then there's some detailed information on the structure of the debt and the sources and uses as we have for the other. So you've got these two reports and you have two resolutions. One awarding the sale to the low bidder for the 2023 bid issue. The second one ratifying the award of sale that happened this afternoon for the 2023B certificates of participation. And they're mostly boilerplate and reflect the financial information that's in these reports. But I'm happy to answer any questions about the reports, the bond issues, or the resolutions themselves. And I should mention that the date for these is October 18th, so that's when you'll receive the proceeds of the issues to start spending or reimbursing yourself for previously expended funds.
Does anybody have questions for Greg before we call for resolutions?
Mr. Chair, if I can just point out, the two projects involved here are Big Fork and Grand Rapids High School, so that's the kind of what's behind this work. The other thing I think it's important to just acknowledge that our financial challenges as a school district aren't just affecting things like Dr. Korsted talked about or Principal DeCoster, but those challenges trickle down to ratings, which trickle down to interest rates, which trickle down to interest costs. So those all have an impact on kind of what we're trying to do here.
Any other questions?
Thank you for a very thorough explanation.
At this point, I'm looking for a resolution to award the sale of the general obligation facility maintenance tax abatement bonds.
So moved.
Moved by Ben,
Second.
second by Melissa. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Resolution is approved. The second resolution we're looking for is to approve the resolution ratifying the award of the sale of certificates of participation. Looking for a motion. Moved by Mindy,
Second.
second by David. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is approved. Thanks for coming, Greg.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, and I did have one form, but I don't know who's holding it.
It's here.
You and David signed that.
Okay.
Proposal form, was that?
Yeah.
Yes.
You might have to walk up.
Yeah, come on up.
Yeah, that's the right one.
Just right here.
Yep.
He's done it pretty cool down.
Oops.
Watch out for deer on the way home. Watch out for deer on the way home.
Total, a couple of rental cars. I'm lucky they give me one anymore. I do want to say thank you though. It's always great to come up and see you all, and we appreciate the relationship we have. So thank you for everything you've done for our community, and thank you for choosing to work with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to approve the consent agenda. Casey, can you hear us?
I can. And over on the consent agenda, we have Corinne Anderson, bus driver resignation. James Hagan, bus driver replacement hire. Shelley Jones, food and nutrition replacement hire. Caden Callanan, Big Four football coach replacement hire. Ashley Kangas, food and nutrition replacement hire. Charles LaPlante, bus driver replacement hire. Diane Levsey, bus driver replacement hire. Jack Pelkey, bus driver replacement hire. Michael Peterson, electrician replacement hire. Leo Pastoria, Big Four assistant football coach replacement hire. And Polly Podkester, the service director retirement. Polly served with us for 34 years. Recommending approval of the consent agenda.
Reminder, there's no discussion on the consent agenda, so I'm looking for a motion to approve. Moved by Pat,
Second, David.
second by David. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Casey, you're next on the agenda. The 2023-24 and 24-25 AFSCME Local 207-1 Service Unit Contract.
Thank you. So back on August 21st, the board had approved the tentative settlement with the AFSCME Local 207-1, also known as our service unit. Now you will see the complete contract coming before you today. The highlight is a 4% salary increase year 1, 2% year 2, adding June holiday, an increased longevity schedule, an increase in the weekend shift differential for food service, after hours call pay, added stipends for employees upgrading their boiler's license or obtaining a new one, moving to our high deductible medical plan with an HSA, moving to being paid as beginning in year 2. I'm recommending approval of the 23-25 contract with our service unit.
Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Pat,
Second.
second by Melissa. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, I just want to thank the service unit bargaining team as well as all the members for approving this contract. We had many meetings and I think we landed in a good spot for them as well as the district. So thank you to them and appreciate that we're able to get this out.
Excellent.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Contract is approved. Casey, the next item on the agenda is to approve the AFSCME Administrative Professionals contract.
Thank you. So again, before you have the AFSCME Local 207-2 Administrative Professionals contract for the 2-year period 2023 to 2025. We did approve the tentative settlement on August 21st. There was a revision of the title from secretaries to administrative professionals, 4% increase year 1, 2% increase year 2, adding the Juneteenth holiday, increase in life insurance, increase in sick leave for a 9 and 10 month, added after hours roll call pay, increased longevity schedule, and also moving to the high deductible medical plan with an HSA and moving to being paid as you work in year 2. I'm recommending approval of the 2-year contract with our professional for 2023-2025.
Looking for a motion to approve the contract.
So moved.
Moved by Ben,
Second.
second by Mindy. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, again, I just want to thank the administrative group. We had several meetings with them as well, and I thought the negotiation process was well, and we landed in a good spot for them as well as the district, and I appreciate the group working with us through this difficult time in the district. So, thank you to them.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Contract is approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the preliminary 2023 payable 2024 levy. Kara.
You have no numbers in front of you for this levy as it's constantly changing. As Greg just described earlier, the two new issuances will go on our levy for next year. So having those just bid out today, getting the costs today, we won't know the amounts. But all the board needs to do tonight is just approve the max levy. So the state of Minnesota will not let us levy what we want or what we need, but they set parameters. So within their parameters, we're asking to just be able to levy the maximum amount.
Looking for a motion.
So moved, David.
Moved by David,
Support.
second by Ben. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, Kara, you know, I always ask when we talk about what's the maximum, and I realize what we set today in years past has always gone down, not knowing what's going to happen this year. But as we sit right today, based on the information that we know today, what is that percentage?
That percentage is about 6%. It will change, like I said, based on the results. We put the lease levy for the new big four on there. So and the interest rates were a little bit better than we predicted, so that will decrease it a little bit. It is up a little bit given the property tax values and the number of kids that we have. So that's all good things. And if our levy passes, that would be a really good thing if our operating referendum. So what it sits at today will not be what it sits at tomorrow or in December when you approve the exact numbers.
And again, this is just the preliminary levy.
It's
set.
just preliminary, it's just a formality saying we will take the max if we can get it.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second and discussion. Any further discussion?
Carol, what was the levy last year? What did we do? What did we do with that?
Last year, our levy did decrease, but overall, just for the general fund, it was $6 million. So of our $60 million budget, $6 million of that is taxes.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Preliminary payable levy is approved. Next item on the agenda, we have second readings of 3 policies. Superintendent Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's 3 policies up for approval tonight. Each one of those was presented at a previous meeting as a first review. Policy 604 has to do with our curriculum programming, provides guidance for that. It was reviewed by our policy review committee as well as teaching and learning director Ryan DeBay, and I would recommend approval.
Looking for a motion to approve policy 604, instructional curriculum.
So moved, David.
Moved by David,
Second.
second by Melissa. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 604 is approved. Superintendent Gross, policy 621.
We've talked quite a bit about the READ Act that was enacted this last legislative session. We've talked about our district's position as it relates to that, and the good position that we're in relative to other districts that maybe are a little bit behind on this evidence-based or science-based reading. This, again, was gone through by our policy review committee, input from our teaching and learning director. It won't be as big of a shift for us as it will be or change for us as other districts that haven't been working on this. The biggest change at some point will be the requirement that we hire or contract with a literacy specialist, and so that'll be something down the road that we need to work through. I recommend approval.
Looking for a motion for policy 621.
So moved.
Moved by Mindy.
Support.
Second by Ben. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 621 is approved. Next policy is policy 902, use of school district facilities and equipment. Superintendent. Superintendent Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The biggest change in this policy has to do with as a result of our budget reductions, the need to capture some revenue from outside groups. As I mentioned at our last meeting, we'll now be charging groups to use our facilities. So the chart on page 7 of this policy was adjusted and amended to reflect that. Been working with our community partners as they're adapting to this. And they've been adapting really, really well, but it's certainly putting a strain on their budgets, which is, we've ultimately a use fee that passes back to parents, and understand the challenge there. But again, reviewed by our policy committee, I'm working with our facilities use group, and recommend approval.
Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Melissa,
Second, David.
second by David. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Policy 902 passes. Next item on the agenda is board reports. Anybody want to go first?
I can go. I ask, so we've had some negotiations regarding ESPs. There's some hires that they've been doing just based on coming into the schools. The 2 early childhood classrooms opened up in, what's the name of the building? I still want to call it.
Well, we have 2 at
Yeah.
both East and West, and then we have them at ICC.
And the 2 new ones at ICC, people, thank goodness for a partnership with ICC. They're beautiful classrooms. They've done a really nice job. So all of that's opening up. They're just like everybody else. School's running along, and they're making some adjustments as they go. So that's about all I have.
Nothing from Ben? Dave?
Yes, the MREA, Minnesota Rural Education Association, had fall members meeting to kind of gather some thoughts about how MREA might advocate on behalf of all of us in rural Minnesota. That was a very productive meeting. The Boys and Girls Club of the Northland, we had a kind of a challenging meeting last week. Funding for the Boys and Girls Club is extremely limited at this point. The operating grant that was consistently awarded by the Blandon Foundation has not been awarded for this year. There's a potential and an expectation that there will be some funds available going forward. But the result of that is that the other major source of funding, the 21st Century Grant, was not awarded to our Boys and Girls Club, based on the fact that while it's one of the most successful in the state of Minnesota, and the funds were very well invested, but there was not a match, and therefore those funds could not be awarded. So the Boys and Girls Club is doing some scrambling right now to figure out where additional funding might be able to come from, and where we might be able to reduce some budgets.
Thank you, David. Mindy?
I went to a wellness committee meeting, and that's a pretty robust committee now with lots of district employees, and they have some great ideas for mental health support and activities and staff appreciation. They've got some grant money already coming in to help with that, so that committee's doing great, taking off for the year.
Pat?
Just a couple of meetings. I was also in attendance virtually with MREA. As David mentioned, they're setting a legislative agenda, looking for ideas for the legislative agenda, as well as MSBA advocacy meeting was last week as well. And that one was a little different than in the past. It was more so of just educating. There were some new members that attended on how the process works legislatively. So there will be another meeting coming up between now and the delegate assembly, which David and I were both reappointed to for the State School Board Association. Facilities meeting, Ken touched on that today at the meeting in regards to Big Fork projects, things that will go on here as well as down in Grand Rapids. And lastly, I just want to say congratulations to Paulie Pasker, our nutrition lady up at the high school, 34 years for the district. Going to be some tough shoes to fill, and looking forward to see how we move forward in filling that position.
Here, here. I also attended the MREA Fall Advocacy Tour. It was very interesting to hear, how some other districts are doing. Next item on the agenda, Superintendent's report. Superintendent Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Ken kind of alluded to, it was a challenging start. Kind of when they open a new store, sometimes they do a soft start to work the kinks out, and we've been working out kinks in a number of our buildings. Big Fork for sure was one. Getting handed over classrooms late is tough. Our tech staff have been working overtime for weeks and weeks and weeks, but we're short. We're short there by about a factor of a half. I think we have about half as many techs as we had not that long ago, and we have as many kids and we have as many devices or more. And so that group's done an incredible job of trying to get us out the door and get things going. But there's only so much that people can do. And so hats off to Chris and his team for doing what they can. And then running into some unforeseen things, like Ken mentioned, with power being out, that was an unforeseen problem. And so a lot of patience by staff, flexibility, probably some frustration too. And so just want to acknowledge that and make sure staff know that I appreciate that we appreciate that. ALC started their school year today in the Educational Services Center, their new facility. And up until last week, they had some desks that were put together. So again, it was right up to the wire for that group. And I think they're adjusting to the idea of the space and trying to make it their own, and that'll evolve over time as well. So that's exciting. A lot of work on the referendum, obviously, right now. Question one, and we had Dr. Korsted in here earlier. Question one about stability, and she was talking about some positions that we struggled with here. Music position that we posted and couldn't fill. But when we look at historically, the challenge there is that we haven't been able to create a stable and maintain a stable position. And that's not an attractive position for people that are trying to find a new place to live and work. And so creating stable workplaces for people is important. And that affects things like music. It's affected things like language here. And getting into question two, that notion of restoring some of that programming that we've had to eliminate. Certainly when we look at language and look at music, it's affected our school here in Big Fork, and something we need to address. Number of meetings with people out in the community last and this week. Kara, I think, gave the board a report or some data that was requested about some land that we own. We're working through selling our most expensive and valuable properties first. And so the admin building is listed or soon to be listed as we get ready to move out of the admin building. Community ed will be moving in there, or is in the process of moving in there this week. We're also in the process of developing some guidelines and some ideas around our reductions that we'll make in the event that the referendum doesn't pass. And obviously after $7.4 million of cuts over 4 years, that list is pretty gut-wrenching to put together, to be honest. We're also working on that list of things that we would add back. And I was clear with my principals today too, that we're any amount of adding back that we do or are able to do will be on a real measured and deliberate basis. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves again, and so we want to put those things back that are, as soon as we can, that are really mission critical. But we also want to ease into this and look for those opportunities to have a big impact, make sure we can offer a comprehensive program. So big part of the work over the last few weeks and looking into the future as well.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is meeting announcements. about upcoming school board committee and meeting dates are posted on each agenda. School board meeting agendas can be found on the district website and on the designated posting site, the ISD 318 Administration Building. Is there any other business to come before the board? Looks like we have one additional public input. Want to come up to the mic?
Mr. Chair and Board, thank you so much for coming up to the great city of Big Fork and holding your meeting up here. We appreciate it. I'm Brian Boone. I'm the mayor of Big Fork. I'm a parent of 4 kids now that are in Big Fork Elementary wing, and I also sub in Big Fork School up here. Let me start out by saying just about everything that Dr. Korstad stated that our community is in support and in agreement with. But one of my main reason I wanted to come up and talk today is to say thank you. Because I recognize, especially some of the things that I see behind the scenes, some of the work that Superintendent Gross and everybody at this table and Kara has been doing to make this Big Fork School project happen. Thank you. Thank you. It's vital to the community. And so we don't want this opportunity to go by without expressing our gratitude. A simple request, after Kara came and spoke at our city council meeting about the tax levy, it was so good to hear from her about the whys and the hows and the whats and to be able to dig into that a little bit. But when I took the paper home and showed my wife, she said, "Why isn't this at every single shop and store in Big Fork to get the word out?" And so my simple request is to just put some pamphlets and flyers that you guys have out to help explain the why. Because I think a lot of Big Fork doesn't understand really the gravity of the situation and the need for it. Like it's not just a wish list thing, it's a need. And so our community needs to understand that better. And so if just something simple like that can be done, it could go a long way. And the other thing that I want to touch on, it involves some of the bid alternate options that there were with the plan, specifically the ball field and the edge center doors. It would be very helpful for our community if there was a plan of action to see those things addressed. Like my understanding is that the doors got pulled out. A big reason is to save money, but there was some concern because there was a we'll get to it, and there wasn't a clear plan of action. And so if specifically those 2 items could have a plan of action come up with and developed so that we could and have that communicated to our community, it would be very helpful for us. Because I understand pulling something from that big project to save a ton of money. Yes, please. But those types of things, if they're communicated, it just smooths the future sailing. And so I did want to express a thanks to Kara for coming up and just express to you guys she did a fantastic job at our council meeting presenting. And so just wanted to come in here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no other items on the agenda, so meeting is adjourned.
Mark, thank you.